Level Up with your host Adam Brooks. Adam Brooks, let's go.
What's going on, guys? I hope you're all good. Welcome to episode 6 of the Level Up podcast with me, your host, Adam Brooks. I'm so happy to be here. I've been absent for a little while, so I have to apologise for not being where I said I would be every Wednesday. From now on, you will be getting your episodes every week, every Wednesday from me. So let's kick off today's episode with some good news. Now, I know lots of people have been complaining to me about they can't listen to the podcast on their phone because they haven't got an iPhone, blah, blah, blah. So, guys, if you're on Android or whatever phones you're on now, you can also now listen on Spotify. So, my podcast is now on Spotify, Apple Music, Spreaker, and a few other places where you can listen now. So, if you haven't been able to listen on your phone, on your journey home or whatever before, you now can get on Spotify. So, let's kick on with this episode because I want to get this one done so we can move on from this series onto some new stuff. So, just for a recap, in episodes 4 and 5, which were the last 2 episodes before this one, we were talking about the first 10 questions about finding purpose, and today we're going to cover the last 5. So, just to recap, I'll go through the first 10 questions just to remind you, and if you haven't listened, feel free to skip back to 4 and 5 to listen to those episodes. So, question 1 was what makes you smile? Question 2 was what do you love doing? Question 3 was what could you do all day? Question 4 was what makes you feel good about yourself? Question 5 was who do you look up to? Question 6 was what comes to you naturally? Question 7 was what are you always helping others with? Question 8 was what would you teach? Question 9 was what would you regret? And question 10, which was the last one in episode 5, was what matters to you? So in this episode we're going to cover a few more questions, and I'm not going to go too deep because I want you to use your imaginations, but I'm going to give you some insights into the questions, and hopefully if you're trying to find your purpose and you haven't yet got to what you think it may be or what it may be surrounding, these final questions will help you get closer to it. So, the first question for today is, what are your deepest values? That's question 11. And what I want you to do this time is to make a list of words that are intrinsically linked to who you are. So I'll make it easy for you. For myself, I would use words like creativity, education, youth, passion, purpose. Not in that order. If I was doing it in order, it'd be purpose every time, and then passion, and then youth, and education, and then creativity. But what I want you to do is think about the things that are really important to you, and then actually put them in order of importance as well. List them, maybe 10 words or whatever, and list them, because that will help you to understand what things are really, really important to you. So the next question is question 12. This is a really cool one. I like this one a lot because it helps you to think back over experiences, and the question is, what have you overcome? So what I want you to do this time is look at your experiences, your failures, the challenges that you faced, and think about what you've learned. How have you made it out of those situations? How did you beat or defeat those challenges? And if you're still going through them now, what are you doing to get out of it? How have you overcome? How have you made it through? And I think even in the process of overcoming something, you learn so much. And I think the purpose of this question really is to help you understand that sometimes when you go through negative situations or challenges, or you face bad situations, there are still things in there that kind of force you to grow. So you can go through a broken relationship, but then when you come out of it, you look back and realize where you went wrong. And that means the next time around, you are actually able to do better. Or if you lose a job and you get fired and it's like, oh my God, I've lost my job. But they feed back to you and say to you, well, actually, the problem was not that you couldn't do the work, but that you didn't communicate very well with other team members, and they felt it really difficult to get things done with you in the team. So then the next time around, you can either decide to address that and learn how to communicate better, or to find out what is it that stops you from communicating, and then do better the next time around. And I think if we look at challenges like that, we can often find there's a lesson in them, and there's something we can take forward for making our lives better in the future. So that question was, what have you overcome? And really that's to help you to understand what things have you gained from your losses effectively. Question 13 is, what do you connect with? This is a really important question. So for example, for me, I'm really connected to like homelessness and youth who aren't in education, and young people who don't have any sort of advocate or any champion, no one that stands up for them. I'm very passionate about those kind of causes. So what causes are you strongly identifying with as a person now? What charities maybe? What things do you believe in? What things really, really get your goat if it's not done properly? For me, like I said, I really struggle to walk past a homeless young person or any homeless person, because I can almost look at them and see myself. And I don't know why I'm so empathetic, but I just know that I can imagine there could have been anybody before this and something could have happened and messed up their life. I remember a couple of Christmases ago, me and my brother were out with some young people doing some homeless work, and we took some young people to try and find some homeless people to take some food to. And we met one guy, and I can't remember his name, I think it was Charlie or something. We met him, and he told me and my brother that he had been living with his girlfriend and had a flat, he had a job and everything. And then one day he came home and she kicked him out and just said, I can't do this anymore. She broke up with him and kicked him out. So that was his first night being homeless. And he'd been homeless from that point for about 6 months after that, having nowhere to go. And obviously he'd lost his job and all that other stuff. And the day before, he was a normal guy going to work. And the day after, he was homeless. It really made me realise that we're all kind of like one day away from being in that situation. So my heart always goes out to people who are in that situation, because you never know how they got there. So for you, what is it for you that you think about that maybe gets you to feel like empathetic or makes you feel really desperate to help or serve? Those things are very, very often linked to your purpose, whether it be in terms of getting a job in the area, or just helping out on the weekend in a homeless shelter, or just taking some food to a homeless shelter every few weeks, or even working in a food bank in your spare time. One thing I don't want you to get confused with is that having your purpose doesn't mean you automatically have to quit your job and go and do this thing. Sometimes it's about finding out how to contribute in your spare time. Sometimes it's about doing something where you just give money to a charity, but it helps. That can make you feel fulfilled. The idea of purpose for me is about being fulfilled. It's about doing things that make you feel like your life has meaning. And so it doesn't require you to quit your high-flying job and go and work in a homeless shelter. What it does require of you is to do something that makes that cause benefit, makes people's lives better in that area, because that will make you feel fulfilled as well. For some people, you will quit your job and go and do something, but it's not required of everyone. So don't get that twisted. It's not a thing where everyone who has a purpose is a charity worker. That's not the case. It's a matter of understanding where you fit and understanding that you can actually make a positive contribution from where you are. So the next question is question 14. What would be your last lecture? And the question is really, if you had one chance to get a message across to a large group of people, what would that message be and who would your audience be? And the reason why it's broken down like that is because normally all of us have this there's a key message in our life that we want to share, whether it's something that's going to help people change their life or whether it's going to just be a piece of wisdom, whatever it is. All of us have something that we can share that will help somebody else. So what I want you to do with this question is think about what would that message be. So in my case, my message would be simple. It would be that you were born on purpose, that you were not an accident, that you can do anything that you want to do, and you must always seek to be yourself. Like, stop comparing yourself to others and just be yourself. And that's really simplifying my message, but that's what I would say. And if I choose my audience would be young people, because they have the best chance of learning, listening, and changing their lives to become the best version of themselves. Now, I don't discount anybody, I'll talk to anybody, but I know if I had one chance to speak to a large audience of people, I would always choose young people. So, in your case, who would your audience be? Which people would be sitting in the room if you had one chance to share your message? And what would your message be? What's the thing that you're dying to get across? What would you tell this group of people if you had one chance to speak to them and that was it? Break it down in your mind, think about it, write down the things that you're really passionate about, the things that are pieces of wisdom that you have from experience and from your life that you would love to share with others. It's really important that you think about this deeply, because I think you'll find that there's something that you have that you've been through, an experience or a challenge or something that's happened in your life, that if you break it down, you can share it in a way that will change other people's lives. And I think that's so unique, and everybody has their own version of their own story. So nobody can copy your story. Nobody can be you in that place. No one can share your story in the way you can share it. So think about it and think about what it is and who you share it with. And so we're down to the final question, question 15. What can you give? Now, if you've listened to episode 4 and 5 and now episode 6 today, you will have a greater understanding of your gifts, talents, and values. And what I want you to do with that now is to think about how you can use those gifts, those values, your talents, and how you can use them to help other people. How you can make a positive contribution to people's lives, even to a cause or a charity or whatever, and even on a bigger scale, the world. What is it that you have that the world could do with? What is it that you have that the world needs? What is it that you have that only you can share, that if you had it and put it out there, people would be clamoring for it? I really want you to think about it, because purpose is really about what you can give to others. I think the biggest sense of fulfillment comes when you're giving away. Most people think that gratification and joy comes from having, and I've realized that having all the things in the world does not satisfy the heart's desire for fulfillment. The only thing that can is what you can give, and what you can give away freely almost as well. So that's really it. That's the top 15 questions. I want you to think about those things, and even if you've got a notepad at home that you've written down the stuff on, take some time to look over all the questions now. Look at all the questions and think about how you've answered, and think if you answered honestly, and think if there's anything you'd like to change. And then I want you to go through and just look at if there's any things that keep popping up, anything that keeps occurring, any positive things that are like standing out to you that you think, I never knew that about myself before, but now I'm seeing it all the time. So think about that, because the next thing we're going to do in a future episode, not the next one, but in the future episode, is look at how we can turn these things, the questions you've answered, into a mission for you in your life. So this is not a matter of you becoming a warrior and going and doing this thing full time or whatever. It's about how can I apply this knowledge of purpose now to my life to live a purposeful existence and be fulfilled in my everyday life. So yeah, that's it, man. I'm so happy to get to the end of this, because I've been trying to finish it for ages and we've done it. So like I said, in a future episode, we'll be going through what is your mission and how can we put these things and these thoughts and these desires into action. So yeah, we've done it. So that's it. That's the end of episode 6. We've done it. Finally, finding your purpose. The top 15 questions to finding your purpose is done. I would really love you to share this with anyone who you think could do with it, any young person or any person in your life who you think would benefit from going through these episodes and finding out what things are linked to their purpose and how they can kind of develop a sense of purpose, and then as a result of that, a sense of fulfillment. So please share it. But I just want to share one more thing with you. The last week has really made me realize how much of comparisons we do, like how much time we spend comparing ourselves to others. The big MJ versus Beyonce debate, which I'm not going to enter, but that thing really made me realize how much time we spend and waste comparing. And I just want to remind you to think about things from the perspective of who you are and where you are. Stop looking at where you are and thinking, I should be further along because he's further along or she's further along. Oh, my best friend just got married the other day and I'm still single. Oh, my best friend's had a kid, now I haven't got any kids yet. Oh, my best friend's got a really high-flying job and I'm still working in the place I worked in 2-3 years ago. Stop comparing yourself to other people and look at you for where you are and where you've come from. The only person's journey that you are responsible for is your own. So you have to start to look at things based on where you've come from. If you started from a different place to somebody else, then of course you're going to be in a different place at this point in your life. Unless you start in exactly the same place and experience exactly the same things and go through all the same things at the same time, there's absolutely no way you should or can compare yourself to anybody. So what I want you to do is what I do to myself. I've really, over the last couple of years, started to evaluate myself properly. Like, and I'm very harsh with myself as well. I look at myself and say, Adam, how could you be doing this better? How much further along could you be if you were doing it more effectively or more with more purpose or more intent? And my birthday was 2 weeks ago, and when I woke up, I looked at myself and said, Adam, you know, you're getting older now, mate. That's what's going on. But I was like, bruv, if you think about where you are now, had you been more intentional in this action, you would have been further along. And what I do really is I talk to myself and say, okay, what can I do to be better? The whole concept of level up for me it's really interesting. The whole concept for me is based on the idea that we all have the capacity to do something that allows us to be better than we currently are. So to simplify it, in relationships, in your job, in fitness and health, in friendship groups, where are you now? So if you think my friendship groups are like an 8 or 9, that's cool. What would make it a 10? And if I have the capacity to change it, then I can change to make it to 10. If my relationship was a 4, how can I make my relationship better? What is the issue that's making the relationship a 4? How can I change that? How can I make it better? So this whole comparison thing, drop it. Like, you are the only person who you're responsible for. You cannot take anyone else's journey. You can only take your own. So stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop looking at your life and judging it based on where somebody else is. Only you are the benchmark for you. Create new habits then, if anything, that reflect where you want to be. So if you want to get a new job, your habits should be reflecting that. You should be doing extracurricular work, extracurricular studies, all kinds of things that will enhance your reputation and your resume so that you can apply for a job in a better place. If you're working in a normal office environment and you want to go for a manager position, it's actually up to you to make a decision to look at the person's spec and then work your way up to matching that specification. there's no point sitting there saying, I want this job, and doing nothing about it. Nothing is going to be handed to you. So this whole idea of comparison is, you compare yourself to you. If you were really operating at the highest level, if you're really doing your best, if you're really pushing yourself, where could you really be? Because I know for myself, I evaluate myself every year. Like I said, on my birthday, I always look at my life and I think, you know what? If I really was doing my best, I would be so much further along. So it's all about your application. It's all about your work. It's all about your desire to get to where you want to get to. Whatever you get to, whatever you decide to do, however close you get to achieving your dreams will be determined by you. Nobody else holds the keys. Nobody else can decide your journey. You have the power to decide. So my encouragement for you today is to look at where you are right now in your life. The whole concept of level up is getting better every day, doing something yourself that enhances your life every single day. And look at yourself and think, what can I do to make my life better? What can I do to improve my situation? Okay, I'm not where I want to be, but how can I get to where I want to be? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become to be better than I am right now? And then take responsibility for making it happen, because only you can decide. So, preaching over, I'm done. But I want to remind you, man, stop comparing yourself to other people and start looking at yourself and comparing yourself with who the best version of you would be if you applied yourself. That's me, guys. I'm done. That's the end of episode 6 of the Level Up podcast. I will be back next week with another episode. Until then, guys, have a great weekend. It's beautiful weather here in Birmingham. I'm sure it is where you are. So enjoy the weather, get some sun, top up your tans, and I'll be back with more fire next week. Until then, always remember, there's always something you can do to level up your life. Peace.
It's time to level up with your host, Adam Brooks. Adam Brooks. Let's go.